Coming up on today's show, we celebrate another milestone. It is the 40th anniversary of the 1984 classic Gremlins. Stay tuned. Welcome to Scary World, where we walk you through the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I am your host, Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
For those of you just joining us, don't forget to subscribe up above and say what's up down below. We have one major rule around here: no spoilers. Now that we got that out of the way, there are 5 categories: production, story, ensemble, horror, and legacy. Each category can score up to 2 points.
Showtime.
Per IMDb, the synopsis goes, a young man inadvertently breaks 3 important rules concerning his new pet and unleashes a horde of malevolently mischievous monsters on a small town. This film was directed by Joe Dante, who had previously directed Piranha and The Howling. Dante does an outstanding job with this production. The entire movie looks and sounds great. It's shot well, it's edited well, and the sound editing and music is top-notch.
There's a problem with the Mogwai. It's going to change. Lots of change.
The main theme of this movie is an absolute classic, and it is ingrained in the minds of everyone who has watched this movie. The highlight of this production are the animatronics and the puppets used all throughout the movie. The practical look goes an extremely long way, and it is what made this movie successful. Gizmo and the Gremlins look fantastic. They move like monsters and creatures. They have a way about them. They have a vibe about them. They really paid a lot of attention to all the little nuances of their movement, of their laughter, how they would emote on the screen, and how they would interact with the human characters in this movie. And we'll talk a little bit more about the characters in the ensemble segment, but they do a great job of interacting with these animatronics and these puppets all throughout as well. They find a way to successfully work together and stay on the same page all throughout, and this is what really works in this movie. This is why it looks so good even till this day. And for the very awesome look of the Gremlins and the movement of Gizmo and those memorable characters, especially the super memorable theme song that we remember every day of our lives, this movie scores a maximum of 2 for production. I cannot praise this movie enough for what it did in 1984, the animatronic and the puppetry and the music and the entire production. How it all came together. It looks great, especially when everything just goes to chaos in the 3rd act of this movie. They just seem to make everything look good, and I am so glad that I rewatched it lately because it still stands the test of time. It looked great back in 1984, and it looks great now in 2024. The script and the story was written by Chris Columbus, who went on to write The Goonies and then went on to direct movies like Home Alone 1 and 2, Mrs. Doubtfire, and the first 2 Harry Potter movies, among other notable films. Here in Gremlins, he managed to write a fun horror movie that's suitable for the entire family.
What is it? No. It's your new pet.
The movie is paced very well, and all 3 acts flow very nicely, hitting all the proper beats along the way. The story does a great job of balancing the comedy with the horror, and we have great moments on either side of the coin. As I mentioned in the previous section, and as I'll talk about more in the next section, the human interaction in the story along with these monsters, because it is a monster story, it is fantastic. I love how they just seem to emote, especially in scenes when you have Billy and Gizmo interacting at first and learning about one another. It really comes off very nicely on the screen, and it comes off nicely on the script as well. You don't need a lot of the dialogue to tell you exactly what's going on in the story. Everything is done very visually here, and it helps a lot, especially with these little monsters, because they don't have dialogue themselves. So they have a lot of action, and we get a lot of action, especially in the 3rd act, where everything is just absolutely bonkers and gone bananas. And the script does a great job of making sure everything stays nice in line, and the humans help that. This whole entire concept is just awesome. And the idea of Gizmo the Mogwai and how it just multiplies and you can't feed it after midnight and all that is just a great premise and something that kids held on to. I know I held on to when I saw it. I held on to all of that stuff, and this is why that movie is great. And for the awesome adventure we get and the great horror family movie that this turned out to be, this movie gets the complete mark of a 2 for this category. The story's great. The characters that were created, specifically the little monsters, the gremlins themselves and the Mogwai, it's just such a unique and interesting premise, and they did a great job executing that here on the story and translating it to film. The cast does an admirable job with their character. They provide adequate support to our rambunctious creatures who are the true stars of this show. As I mentioned in the previous segment, the human aspect of this movie does help with the wild narrative. It makes it stay on the rails, keeping it nice and linear, and without the help of these humans, it would have been too crazy of a story. These gremlins are all gas and no break. So I am glad that the humans are there to make sure that the creatures do not overwhelm this entire movie. And with that said, the gremlins also did a good job making sure the humans were kept in check and did not overwhelm the actual star of the movie, which was our little monsters. And for the solid cast and characters, this movie gets a 1 for ensemble. I really enjoyed how the actors in this movie made sure the gremlins were the stars of the show. Phoebe Cates and Zach Galligan did a solid job with their roles, and they made sure to be a perfect piece of the puzzle. But as I said before, the box office attraction here is Gizmo and the Gremlins. There is plenty of horror fun in this movie. There's no blood or gore, but we get plenty of practical monster action to satiate any horror fan's appetite. These gremlins are gnarly and they act appropriately too. Their design is fantastic and iconic. Speaking of iconic, we have Gizmo, our lovable Mogwai. He's a staple of 80s cinema and a true mascot of the genre. I love the way these things look and the way they act on screen. I spoke about it in the production segment that they did a great job with these animatronics and these puppets and the movement and the way they just look on the screen, the way they act on the screen, and the way they interact with the human actors is just absolutely fantastic. And it's very fun, it's very whimsical, but that doesn't mean it looks bad or campy or just really poorly executed. No, they definitely thought out every detail of how these things are going to work, and they execute it at a top level, and it looks good every single time I watch this movie. My kids love the way they look. I know I loved the way they looked when I was a kid myself, and to this day that design of Gizmo is just mwah, chef's kiss. And for the fantastic practical effects and puppetry and animatronics we get in this movie, Gremlins scores the maximum of 2 for horror. The monsters in this movie look great, they act great, they're real, you can feel them, they have texture to them. The actual bad gremlins like Stripe and his crew, they're slimy, you can see their very rough, scaly texture. Unlike Gizmo, he's furry, he's fluffy, he's cuddly, you know, the complete antithesis of the actual gremlin. And they just did a great job with the entire look of everything and how it just is executed and how everything just flows. They did a fantastic job, and this is why this movie still stands the test of time, because of production and care like you have here in this movie. What a fun time I had on this rewatch. This movie is entertaining and it really captivates once it gets going. It was a must watch for any 80s kid, and it still stands the test of time, as I previously mentioned. The combination of a cute fluffy Gizmo with the dastardly Stripe and his crew, along with the comedy, truly make this a horror movie for the entire family. And for the memorable characters and story and design, this movie gets the full marks of a 2 for legacy. This is exactly what this category is about. The legacy a movie leaves behind is extremely important. Whether the sequel lives up to the first one or not, there is a legacy to every movie. And this one is no different. We love Gizmo, we love the Gremlins, we love the hijinks they get into, all the different forms of Gremlins as well. Forgot to mention there's tons of different designs and costume designs and looks for these things, and they're all just awesome and fun and captivating and fantastic. And I just love this movie, and my kids love this movie, and we love watching it. We love watching it in the summertime. We love watching it during Christmas time, just like the movie is set. But whenever you want to watch Gremlins, it is always going to be a good time. To tally it up, Gremlins received a 2 for production, a 2 for story, a 1 for ensemble, a 2 for horror, and a 2 for legacy, bringing its total score up to a 9. If you guys have not watched Gremlins, please go out of your way and find this movie wherever you can get your streaming or your media, DVDs, Blu-ray, wherever you can. You need to watch Gremlins, folks. I think the lasting memory that it has left behind on a lot of people is absolutely a gorgeous thing, and the reason why we go to the movies and why we watch movies in the first place. Characters like Gizmo and Stripe and his Gremlins. This is why we watch movies, to have characters that we think about 40 years after its inception is absolutely incredible, and why we are celebrating this movie today.
Can you tell me what time it is?
And that's a wrap. Thank you for watching Scary World. Don't forget to drop a comment down below and hit the thumbs up on the video. Most importantly, do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell all your friends, your family, and their pets to come on down to CorpseFeed. Hit the subscribe button. We have spoiler-free horror movie reviews for you guys dropping every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Plus, we have the Morgue, the official CorpseFeed podcast, dropping every Tuesday wherever you get your podcast streams. Please go like, subscribe, and share. Go rate, go review, drop some stars. We are there, folks. We are also on all the social platforms. Go like, subscribe, and share there. And we will see you again on Friday for another episode. And remember, folks, it is a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.